Here we have a question involving the inverse function of a composite function, and it's a typical GCSE or IGCSE style question. So we are given two functions, f of x being 3x squared plus 1, and it gives us a limitation that x must be greater than 0, and g of x being 4 over x squared, and again x being greater than 0. We'll deal with the limit side of things shortly, but let's just look at what they're trying to get us to do. They want us to work out this new function h, and h is determined as the inverse of f of g. So a good starting point is just work out what f of g is. Now what that means is we're going to take our f of x function, but instead of using x, we're going to put our g of x function into it. So wherever we see x, we replace it with 4 over x squared. So what does that look like? Well, we're going to write f of g equals, and it's going to be 3, and instead of x, I'm going to put 4 over x squared, and that is squared, and then I plus 1. So just look at that for a second. I've just taken this function and put this into it, creating this. This looks a bit of a mess, so let's kind of tidy this up a little bit. Let's deal with the square of the bracket first of all. So I've got 3 multiplied by 4 squared is 16, and x squared to the power of 2 is x squared times x squared, which is x to the power of 4. And then I have plus 1. 3 times 16 is going to be 48, so that gives me 48 over x to the 4 plus 1, and that is my f of g. Now I want the inverse of that. So if you remember when you're doing these, it's nice to consider them really as y equals something and then swapping the y and the x around. So to work out my f of g to the minus 1, I'm not going to put equals, so just put a colon to say this is what I'm now working on. And my starting point will be x equals 48 over y to the 4 plus 1. So I've basically just taken this, put a y here, swapped the x and the y across, created this, and now I'm going to rearrange this so I have y on its own. First step I'm going to do is take away 1 from both sides, so I have x minus 1 equals 48 over y to the 4. Let's put that inside a bracket because it's an entire thing on its own. Multiply both sides by y to the 4, so y to the 4 multiplied by x minus 1 equals 48. Divide now by my bracket, so y to the 4 is equal to 48 over x minus 1, and the opposite of power 4 is root of 4, so y equals plus or minus, because it's a power of an even number, so I'll have two solutions. So the fourth root of 48 over x minus 1, and you might think that's the answer to the question, but remember we have these limitations here, x being greater than 0 in both cases. So if that's my starting point here, when I have my inverse function, that's my endpoint. So I've got to make sure my answer is always greater than 0. For this to be greater than 0, I cannot have a negative answer. I can only take the positive answer of the fourth root of this expression. So therefore my final answer, to get the final mark, my h of x is going to be equal to just the positive one, so I don't need to write the positive sign, but I just rewrite this root without the plus or minus on, fourth root of x minus 1, and that will give me full marks.